Okay, so it is 11, so I am going to go ahead and get started. Um, I am Shannon, and I'm with UEN. I taught fifth grade. That was my, and I just think that's the perfect age. I like a little bit of sass, and they had a little bit of sass, so I loved that age. They were super fun. But we're hopefully going to address tools and features and ways that you can use Canvas, regardless if you are kindergarten all the way up to sixth grade. So I am going to go ahead and one more time, just because a few of you, and I'm ignoring the waiting room. So as a few more people enter, so please feel free to post any questions you have in the chat. My coworker Jared Fossen is here and in this session, and he's watching the chat. So if any of you have any questions about anything, please feel free to post it there. You also are welcome to unmute and just ask me if that's easier also. It looks like, looking at everybody here, looks like everybody's on mute, and I appreciate that. Definitely, again, ask questions if you have them, but otherwise it'll be nice to keep your computers on mute just to keep things nice and quiet. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to share my screen. All right, now I'm going to adjust this just a little bit. Okay, so I am on the wrong screen here. This is the Canvas course that I'm going to be working out of today, and hopefully you are all able to join. If you are just hopping onto this call, you can either check in the Zoom chat, this link is posted, or I did put it on this page here so that you could access it. If you're typing it, it is case sensitive, so it has to be a capital J and a capital Z. So I am, okay. All right, guys, I'm gonna try and stay on top of that waiting room. Okay, so the biggest thing with Canvas is Canvas was not, initially, it wasn't created for elementary. And for any of you who have, who've used it, like you can probably see, it was definitely more of a secondary and especially on a college level, that type of tool. Now you can totally make it elementary friendly, but you have to understand the tool a little bit and be a little bit creative. So, so we're going to be talking about just a few simple ways, like 45 minutes is no time at all to address all the things that we could do. But this is hopefully going to talk about just a few things. Now, right here, you can see I just have my homepage. It's just a simple banner with my course, a little bit of extra text, and then a couple of buttons with some simple text on them. I feel like one of the first things we'll talk about, and one thing that I think is really important to make Canvas user-friendly for our students, is to give lots of visuals to help direct them on the pages. I'm going to go ahead and click on graphics here. Now on the graphics page, this is just a content page that I have here. So yeah, this is just a content page that I have here, and I just have a couple of tips about graphics. Keep them simple and with both color and pattern and how many buttons you use. I think elementary teachers, and this isn't everyone, I feel like every time I teach this session, there's always a couple that say, I don't care about cute, but I think a lot of elementary teachers do care about cute. And that's great. You can actually, using graphics, you can make your Canvas course very cute. But you also want to keep it clear and make it really easy for your students to navigate. So for instance, on this home page that I have here, I tried not to have too many buttons. And I also tried to keep it clear as far as color. So if I have a student who's a non-reader, I can say click on the purple button. Just keeping that in mind, we want simplicity. Now, I didn't want to take too much time to show you about making specific graphics, but I do have a couple of videos here that you can access. One for creating buttons just using PowerPoint or Google Slides. One, a tutorial for using Adobe Spark Post. You can create really great buttons, and then Canva. All the banner and the buttons that I created on my homepage, I created in Canva. Both Adobe Spark and Canva have paid features to them, but everything that I did with Canva, I just used the free account for this course. The same with Post. There's plenty you can do with free. So depending on how much you are interested in investing in what your course looks like, there will be some of you that this matters more than others. Here are some tips for that. I'm going to go back to my homepage. For anyone who's hopped in a little bit later, if you're thinking, how do I get to this Canvas course? You can go to this link. It's also posted in the chat, and Jared Fossen will just occasionally repost that link. So you can click on this link to register for this course. And by registering, you're just going to have access to it. You're not going to have any assignments or anything, but this will just give you access. Another feature that's really nice is video and audio in Canvas. Now, Canvas has some built-in features for inserting your own videos and inserting your own audio that you record within Canvas. Now, let me start by saying, before I show you how to do this, that these features, or the tools built into Canvas, you wouldn't want to do a whole math lesson using the video and audio tools that are built into Canvas. These are the tools where you're thinking, oh, this would be really nice if I could give my students just a little bit of extra instruction here, or I could remind them of this thing that they always forget to do. I could put a reminder in here really quickly. I feel like the tools that are built into Canvas are excellent for those quick supports. I have the video here, which we're not going to get into, but if you want to watch it later, starting on 204, that's where they kind of show you quickly how to record the audio and video. And I have a couple of examples here. Now, let's pretend, and this is a real bare bones example. Most students could figure out a 1, 2, and 3. But if I've recorded something, if I wanted a little bit of extra instruction, one thing that I really do like about the video is it kind of makes it so you can Brady Bunch the screen. And what I mean by Brady Bunch the screen is, remember in the intro of Brady Bunch, they had all the squares of all the people, and they're all waving to each other, when in reality, somebody isn't on top of the other person, but they know where they will be when it's all put together. As you're filming this, you know where these items are on your screen. So let me show you just an example right here.
I just wanted to give you a little bit more instruction. So you have 3 things listed below that you need to do. So just make sure that you finish them in the correct order. You need to read first, then you need to watch that video, and then the most important, to make sure you turn in the assignment.
Okay, so, and then I'm going to click minimize. So again, this is not like the most razzle dazzle example, but and let's forget distance learning for just a second, and let's talk about how this would be helpful in your classroom. So let's say, how many of you run centers where you think like, oh, it would be so nice if I could just make a recording of my voice repeating the instructions to my students, so that when I'm working with small groups, I didn't have to stop what I was doing with the small groups to go help support. Well, what if for each of your rotations, you just recorded a quick video of yourself? So again, this is really nice for distance learning because they get to see and hear their teacher, which I think is super important if you're doing remote learning. But also if you're in the classroom, this can be a really powerful tool. Or thinking if you are gone and you're leaving some activities for the sub to do, how nice if it can be your voice when they're watching whatever they're supposed to be doing or reading instructions for whatever they're supposed to be doing. If they see you and hear you explaining or giving them a few more tips or a few reminders. Again, this tool isn't necessarily meant to make a really long video, but can be a really nice addition. Another example, I have an audio example here. The audio, you could do the same thing. You could just, instead of recording your face, you could just record your voice and give instructions. But you can also become your own screen reader. Now, if you'll notice at the top of this content page, we have this great big immersive reader button, which is great. It does read the pages to the students. So in this case, reading the page isn't really necessary because I do have my immersive reader button. But the immersive reader only works on content pages. So if you are creating assignments or quizzes or discussions, and you have, for instance, a passage that you want them to respond to, you can use recording your voice to kind of act as a screen reader. So for instance here, if you give these instructions to your students, press play to listen to your teacher, read the paragraph below, track with your finger. This is what it looks like.
There are many kinds of butterflies. They come in different sizes and shapes. All butterflies are alike in some ways.
Okay, I won't make you listen to that whole thing. But we have, again, you can use audio to help support your students, your struggling readers. This can be a really nice way to do that. So I'm going to show you quickly how you would do that. And I'm just going to do it on this page. So I'm going to edit this content page. And when I am in edit, I'll go here and I will just put my cursor. It will drop wherever my cursor is sitting. So it's kind of easier to put your cursor where you want it to be. I have this button in my rich content editor called record/upload media. So if you already had a video, you could go to this upload media tab and you could select the audio or video file. So if you have a favorite screencasting tool and you already have videos created, cool, you can upload it right here. But if you want to record yourself, first of all, I'll show you with a webcam, or with your video recording, it's already ready to go. So I'm going to say start recording. Get a little countdown. I record with whatever I want, talk to my students. I say finish. Now, notice there are no editing tools. I can watch it and I can either start over if I don't like it or save. Those are my only two options. So I'm going to say save, and then it actually looks fairly ugly when you insert it. And it's okay, it looks better once you save the page, but in the edit form, this is how it looks. Now I'm going to press enter to move my cursor down, and I'll show you with an audio clip. It's not a big deal. I'm going to go to webcam and I'm going to say no video. And now it's just my mic, and now I can start recording. And I would record my audio clip, whatever I want to say, click finish. And then again, I can either start over or save. Those are my only two options. And then it's there. Now I'm going to go ahead and save my page just so you can see it'll look like those examples earlier. So I have these examples, either video or audio. So those are, again, just two ways between video and audio, nice ways to support things you're asking your students to do in Canvas. Again, even if you're a 6th grade teacher, you can probably think of students right now that would struggle with a lot of reading in this type of setting. And so any little supports that we can build in to help them to be successful and help them to be independent. I think as we teach our students, like, oh, I can just press play here and I can listen to the instructions, it helps to empower them. They can figure out the answers on their own, that they don't have to come to the teacher for everything, but there are tools ready for them to help them to be independent. So I am going to go back to the home page here. Now, on my home page, this graphics button was linked to a content page. Video and audio was also linked to a content page. I'm going to talk about modules for just a minute. As I click on modules, notice we're not going to go to a content page. On purpose, I linked this to a module. Some of you, especially probably some of the upper elementary, but maybe even some of you, the more you use technology with your students, some of you may be more comfortable in younger grades. But when I click on module, we're linking to the module view. So it jumped, this is what the module view is, and it jumped to my module. Now, as I scroll, you can see I created a module for all of my content that we're going to talk about today. But because I linked to the modules module, that's what was at the top of the page. So I can still scroll and access anything else that's published, but this is where it brings it to the top of my page. Now, modules, I have this little file folder here to make sure that it's super clear. Modules are not content in and of themselves. They're just a place to organize all the content that you're bringing, whether you're creating stuff in Canvas or whether you are bringing files of your own or you're using Nearpods or whatever it is you're doing. Modules just organizes them for you. So here, if you'll notice, oh, and here's my one quick tip. If you're sending your students to modules, one nice way to help have, because this is a very text heavy view, right? There's no way to insert images other than, let me show you. I'm going to edit my title. Okay. When I'm typing here, this is just, so I'll right click, and depending on what type of computer you're on, it'll look a little bit different, but you should have an option that says emoji or emoji and symbols. Truthfully, if you right click and you don't have those options, I don't even know how to turn it on for you. It's just always been there on my computer. But then you can go through and you can find different emojis that will help your students. So if you have a student who is a struggling reader, but you could say, go to the soccer ball and update the module, and I'll leave it there. So that is probably the most simple way to throw some graphics into your module view so that students have some visual cues on an otherwise very text-heavy view. Now, if you'll notice in modules, I have some headers here. These aren't, if I click on them, like if you're in the course right now and if you click on modules and click on lesson, you'll notice lesson and resources don't go anywhere. When you go to module and when you create a module, to add things to the module, you're going to click the plus button. Now, you can add assignments, quizzes, files, pages, discussions. You can also add text headers. These are really helpful for organization. And it can be, in this case, I used it to, let's see if this will let me move it. Yeah. I used it to illustrate how you could use this to teach a lesson. And also I put resources there at the top of the bottom, because for you as educators, these are resources that can help you to learn more about modules. So this links to a video and I'll go ahead and click on it so you can see what an external link looks like, or an external URL. So it just takes you to the page. And then if you come back, now I can see where it says Open Modules Overview, or I can go back to Home and click on Modules again. But so not only can you put things in there, but you can organize. You can organize your stuff. Now, if for some reason this was just for me, let's say resources and lessons was something to help organize me, but I didn't particularly want my students to see it, I could just unpublish those text header elements. And then when my students, now for anyone who's in the course right now, if you refresh this modules view right now, when you look again, you won't see lessons and resources. And I'll publish those again in just a second because I want you to remember them there. But this can be a really nice place, especially when you are planning how you want the flow of a lesson to go or the flow of a unit to go. You'll find for all of you, for your circumstances, how you break up a module is really going to depend on what you're teaching and how you're teaching it. Some of you, it might make sense to break up your modules by months. So maybe like September, October, November. Some of you, it might make sense to have like math unit 1, math unit 2. Maybe some of you just like by week. So it really is up to you and what makes the most sense to you. I think it's becoming more and more common that districts kind of set a standard for that. But even if your districts aren't setting a standard for that, I think it's still a really good idea to at least discuss on a grade level and come to a consensus of how you're going to set that up. And I think it's also, well, yeah, I would at least try and come to a consensus per grade level, but even per school can be helpful. So if you have a parent that has 3 or 4 students in elementary school, that they're having a fairly consistent experience no matter which of their students they're going to help. So just something to think about. But I can go ahead, let's say that I'm looking at the flow and I'm thinking, okay, I want to start with an overview, and then I want them to do an assignment. And then let's say I actually want them to participate. I think, I actually want them to do a discussion before they take this quiz. I'm going to go ahead and click the plus button. I'm going to choose discussion. Now, I can either create a new topic. If this is a discussion I haven't made before, I can create a new one right here, or I can choose one that I've already created. We'll look at the Slinky discussion in a minute. But so let's say if it's a new topic and I just call it topic discussion because I'm being super vague with my titles here. So now, whenever you create anything new, it's always going to get thrown to the bottom of the module. There's not a lot. Well, there's nothing you can do about that. That's just the way that happens. But if you notice, all those dots on the left side, as I hover my mouse over it, it turns into a 4-directional arrow. And that lets me know I can click and drag to move this. Now, right now, it's not published, which is fine because there's not actually anything in it. And if I wanted to edit this discussion, if I wanted to add content to it, I would go ahead and just click on it from there. And then I'd have to hit edit and put in all of my information, which I will in just a minute. So coming back to modules, another really nice thing about modules is it helps to control the flow of how your students work through content, okay? So let me show you what I mean by that. So the title of this module is called modules. So I'm gonna come to the title line and I click on my 3 dots over here and I say edit. Now from here, first of all, I can lock this. So I can have my module published and ready to go, but I can say, I don't actually want my students to be able to view this content. Let's say it's Unit 2, and Unit 2 doesn't start until next Monday. So maybe you leave it locked until next Monday. I won't actually save this because this will lock you out of the module right now. I also can add prerequisites, so things that my students have to complete or accomplish before they can access this specific module. Now, with prerequisites, notice I have a graphics module and a video audio module before this. So for my prerequisites, it's letting me choose, well, what do you want to do for this? So let's say I choose graphics. And that just means that I have to complete whatever requirements were set up for graphics, which I don't have any. But let me show you how you could also add requirements. So I can add a requirement for my students. So I could say, students must complete all of these requirements, and you are going to list those requirements down here. And you can also check this box that they have to move through them in order. So if you want for sure, you don't want them to get into the discussion until they've viewed the content page and until they've done the assignment. They need to have done those things in order to have a quality discussion. So you want to make sure that they're moving through these things in order. In that case, this is a really nice way to ensure that they're doing that. So now, for instance, for a content page, the only things that I can do, that students can do is to complete a content page, is they either only have to view the item or mark it as done. And I will leave it there. So, and I'll save that in just a second so we can go and you can see what marking it as done looks like. It's very simple, but it's kind of nice because then viewing the page, it just means that they just have to sit on the page for like 1 second before they move on, and it'll mark it as done. It'll like say that they're done with it. But marking it as done, they have to manually do it themselves. And I'll show you in just a second. But that can be a nice way for them to say, like, yes, I have read the material, I understand it, marked as done, moving on to the next thing. So then I can add another requirement, and I can say, okay, the topic assignment. Now for the assignment, they either can view it, mark it as done. Now we have submit the assignment. You also can say they have to score at least. Now this is a cool feature because you can add rubrics to your assignments. So you can say, well, I don't think they know the content unless they score at least an 85%. So they have to score at least that. So if they don't get it, they'll have to resubmit. The one problem with this is that if you're wanting your students to move independently through this, that hangs them up until you've graded. So for some of you, for some situations, that might be perfect. You might say, well, that's fine because they'll do all their assignments on one day and I can go through and grade. But just be aware that that scoring at least all of a sudden puts responsibility on you, that they can't move on until you have graded their assignment and given them a score. So just be aware of that. I am going to update right here. Oh, we're going to say continue. And then now, really quickly, I'm going to go through and get rid of some of these because I think it could make things messy. But okay, notice on my screen, now I have a little notification. It will unlock at June 8th. Remember how I said I wasn't going to save this? I'll go back and fix it so you all can have access to it again. But it will unlock on June 8th at 12 a.m. You can choose a specific time. So for some reason, you don't want it unlocked for your first, like for the first part of the day, but the second part you do. I can't think of a time where I ever needed that specific, but if you do, you could even choose the time. It also lets me know, oh, I added a prerequisite. They have to complete graphics before they can access this module. And also, this will tell the students would see this also. They would see complete all items, and then they would have to work through those. And notice over here now, the topic overview has to be marked as done. And the topic assignment, I listed it as view. So not only does it tell them they have to complete the assignments, but it kind of gives them a heads up what they're going to have to do. Let me go to the student view so you can see what mark done looks like. So student view, this is going to be a real handy feature. And actually, I'm going to have to change one thing first, because this will show me what it would be like as a student. Since this is still locked until June 8th, if I went into the student view right now, it would tell me I don't have access to the module. So I'm going to have to edit that quickly so that I can. So I'm just going to uncheck lock until, and actually I'm going to get rid of this prerequisite also. Okay, so I'm going to update the module. So now I don't have that text down here. So now I'm going to go home. This student view button is super handy when you're thinking, so what are my students going to see? So just from your home page, you're going to click on student view on the far right. Now, obviously you won't see this in this Canvas course that you're in as a student, but you would see it in any courses where you're the instructor. So I click on student view. I get this purple border around my screen, and it lets me see what my students would do, so, or what they see. So I click on modules. This page has been disabled for this course. Oh, because I don't have modules here. See, so let me say, I'm going to pretend I did this on purpose. Student view is really nice because it helps you to check and make sure that you have things published and turned on like you should. So, sorry if in comments somebody would, if any of you have tried to click on modules, you probably got that message and weren't able to go there. So sorry if I missed a comment. So I'm going to put modules into an area where my students can view it. So I'm going to adjust my navigation menu by going to settings. Then I'm going to, on the navigation tab, I'm going to find modules, and I'm going to click and drag it up to the top. I'll scroll to the bottom, click save. Now I'm going to go back home, click on my student view, click on modules. Let's see if I fixed that. Okay, so now if you'll notice, it says I have to complete all items. So notice these other things are grayed out, like I can't even click on these. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to mark done. So when I click on this, so they would look over, and this page I have nothing in it, but all they have to do is once they've viewed the content, they have to click here. So, and then it says done for them. And then they say next, and it would take them to that next assignment. Now I'm going to go back to modules so you can see as your students. Now, because the topic assignment was that I only had to view it, notice what a short time I had to be on the assignment, and it's marked as done. So these are the only 2 assignments that I said had to be completed. So as a student, if I'm wanting to visually look and say, did I finish what I need to finish? You can just get this quick feedback. And this is if you add requirements to a module. You do not have to add requirements. Some of you, this might feel like too much, but it can be a really nice way in helping not only for you to build a lesson, for you to kind of, or a unit to think through, okay, how do I want my students to move through this? But also for your students to know that they're kind of moving through it in the correct order also. So I'm going to click this Leave Student View. And I'm going to go back to our homepage, and I'm going to publish these again. Sure, we'll turn on the discussion also. And this publish button is also really handy. Modules, I showed you how you can change it so that it's locked until a certain date. Another way that you could keep your students from accessing it is you could just unpublish it. So when your students get in, even though all of these are published, because they're housed within modules, your students will not be able to see them at all until you publish. So that's something to be aware of too, that publish button is an easy way to turn things on and off for your students. Just be aware that in this case, you have to manually click the button, where when you check that lock until box, when you choose a date and time, it will just automatically do it. So just depending on how you want your students to view the content. I'm going to go ahead and click on home. Now, I want to go to interesting discussions. I think sometimes we kind of think like, well, how maybe, and for instance, the discussion tool with elementary, sometimes you might think, my students are not strong typers. How could I even use discussions? So first of all, I do have a part of a discussion completed, but I want to show you how you can add more to it. So I have it listed here. First, you need to watch the video. Now, remember, because it's a discussion, I don't have that immersive reader button. And discussions look pretty much the same whether you're in student view or teacher view. So so we don't have our immersive reader button. So if you did need help for your students, you could insert some audio here. But first, watch the video. And I think because it is like about 58 seconds, we are going to watch it really quickly, because anyone who's in this Canvas course, I'm going to have you participate in this in just a minute. Don't participate yet, but in a minute, I'm going to have you do it.
Today I'm at the University of Sydney talking to Rod Cross, who's done physics for many, many decades.
You are perfectly correct. I was a student here in 1960.
Wow. So he certainly knows a lot about physics. And today we're doing an experiment involving a slinky. Can you tell me about it?
Well, I have here a slinky in my hand. I'm going to hold the slinky by the top end, let the bottom end go so the slinky stretches.
And it dangles freely.
And I'm going to ask the question, what happens when I let go at the top end? Will the bottom end fall first? Will the top end fall first? Will both ends fall together? Or will the center of the slinky stay at rest and the top end and the bottom end approach each other and they collapse in the middle? Make your prediction and then I'll drop it. Ready, set, go.
Okay, so how many times have we asked our students to make predictions and we just say, think in your head? So in this case, we have kind of an interesting, let's drop a slinky and see what happens. So then we have next, comment with your prediction. How do you think the slinky will fall? Now, hold on, don't comment just yet, because the last thing that you need to do is once you've posted, you'll see the instructor post at the top with the answer. So I haven't made a post yet. I'm going to go into edit for just a second so you can see what I did here. When I set up my discussion, I have a normal text box with my normal rich content editor here. But down here with discussion, I have a few things that I can check. I allowed threaded replies, which means students can reply to each other and you can have a conversation. For younger students, especially on a first discussion, you might not enable that right away. But a great way to start teaching good digital citizenship skills in a safe, controlled environment. This is an important box that I checked here. Users must post before seeing replies. You don't always have to do that, but I'm going to put the answer as the first post. So I need them to post before they see that reply, okay? So, and you can set up all your points. Obviously, I have nothing here, but you can set it up the way you'd like. Now, I'm going to reply to this exactly the same way that my students would. So I'm going to say reply. And then I have my text box here, and I'm going to say, did you, was your prediction correct? Watch the video below to see. Okay, now this is a YouTube video. So I am going to move all of my Zoom controls so I can access tabs that I need. And I'm going to go to YouTube, and this is a really nice video that's Slinky drop Veritasium. Yeah. This is a nice video that is already broken up for you. So here's the drop that's 57 seconds. And this video, the answer is longer, but I'm going to, oh, good. And we need some good Disney Plus ads here. So, okay. So now I'm going to copy the link to this. And, oh, mercy, so much Zoom in the way. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the discussion. And now to insert a YouTube video, and I know I have a few districts here, so it may work better for some than others. But to put, some districts may allow YouTube where others don't. But if you do, YouTube's super easy to drop in. I click on this that record button. It looks like a little film strip. I paste my link. It gives me dimensions. You can change the dimensions if you want your video a little bit smaller. You say okay. And now the answer's there. So now I'm going to say post my reply. So we have, oh gosh, time went fast. If anyone's in the course right now and wants to participate in this discussion, go ahead and make a prediction. And I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to do it. So, yeah, because we'll move through this one pretty quickly because we're almost done. And it's okay if no one does hop in. This is going to be a true teacher 30 seconds because it's not actually going to be 30 seconds. Okay, we're going to watch for just a second. Let's see if this will, okay.
But this is going to be really tough to see. So how are we going to actually?
Okay, I'm going to mute this for just a second. Most of the time, I was messing with this video up here. I don't know why I couldn't get it to go full screen, but most of the time it will allow them to go full screen so that you can see. So, and I don't know what language that is. And I'm going to turn the sound back on and we're just going to watch it for just a second, and it goes in slow motion so you can see the answer. And I think it's pretty magical. We're not going to watch the full 3 minutes. I didn't
really see which happened first. No, I know that you need to slow that down.
Well, let's go to a slow motion replay and see what actually happened.
So cool, right? Okay, so now notice though, okay, so as a teacher, you can put in a YouTube video, you can kind of help your students, you can use video to make it interesting, but also with your students, when they reply, again, this is gonna look the same for your students as for you. When they reply, notice that they also have a rich content editor that has a record/upload media button. So if you're thinking, I'd like to do discussion with my students, but goodness, it's going to be hard for them to type. Could they record themselves either with video or with audio? And I would say, if you do this, it will be super smart to give them a time limit. To say, you have 30 seconds to tell me this. Because as you grade, you'll find if you have students that are talking for minutes at a time, it gets really long. So again, that video audio is so great for you as a teacher, also super great for your students. And think, if you create an assignment, let's say you want to listen to their fluency, you could have an assignment that just has this passage posted that you need them to read, and their response could be a video recording of them reading whatever's on the page. And then you have a video record of that. So the fact that they can record themselves, video and audio, can be really empowering for you also in the feedback that you get from them. Okay, guys, we are out of time. Let me just show you one more thing. Other helpful tools. This is for those of you who are Nearpod users or have a lot of Google stuff or have ever used Gale products, which is a research tool. These are 3 tools that work beautifully with Canvas. So if you're interested in learning more, you can click on those. And then finally, Just Getting Started is a great PDF that has tons of tutorials, kind of helps you to get going. And then Interested in Learning More is just a link that takes you to a UEN course and a Canvas course with more information. Obviously in 45 minutes, that's like, we didn't, that was like a drop in the bucket. Oh, 4 of you did your discussion. Perfect. Too bad we're out of time, but I'll go back and look at them and give you some feedback. So anyway, oh, do you know one thing I didn't put in here? I will add to this homepage, I'll add my email address. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I know I went through that really quickly. But otherwise, thank you so much for dropping by, and we will hope to hear from you soon. Best wishes with everything. So, all right, thanks guys.